I have the keys to this 2007 Cayman. I also have a mile to drive to share with you what I think about this car. Now, what's special about this? This car is what I call an ÜnStock car, meaning it's modified. This car has, you can tell, a lowered suspension. I believe it's Öhlins coilover suspension. This car is often seen at local autocrosses. Normally it has sticky tires. Today it just happens to have aftermarket wheels. If you look inside, it's all race business. You have form-fitting seats, a lot of the interiors not in there, maybe for lightweight, maybe for a more visceral experience. In terms of the motor, I believe it's quite stock, except for maybe a lightweight flywheel. So we're gonna take it for a ride and let you know what we think. Be sure to log into your YouTube account, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video. Best of all, it's free to do so. So I've had a little bit of experience getting into cars with fixed seats, and getting in gracefully is quite a challenge, but you certainly can climb over and get yourself situated. It's actually quite comfortable once you're in. So fired everything up, let's go for a ride. As we take off, the lightweight flywheel can be tricky in some cars, so I'm interested to see whether or not I'm going to have to give it a little bit more gas when I'm pulling away so I don't stall. Surprisingly, doesn't feel too different from stock. So there's definitely a lot of NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness in this particular car because it's been set up with, you know, a stiffer suspension. You know, you've got the interior pieces out of it. You know, this is I don't want to say a dedicated autocross car, but it's set up for maybe weekend warrior duty. On a back road like this, it's actually quite awesome. It doesn't ride as hard as I thought an aggressive suspension would ride. It's very compliant. Steering feels good. I don't feel jarring motions at the suspension. Let's see how the throttle and lightweight flywheel reacts. Great shifter, pedal configuration. A little bit of a downshift there. This thing is right at home on a curvy back road. Okay, that was a little bit of a more aggressive hit to the chassis, that deeper pothole, but still not unbearable. Here's a nice sweeper. Let's take advantage of that. So the stiffer suspension really does keep the car on the road. It's quite amazing how well the suspension has transformed this car. It certainly isn't, well, I'll talk about the rating later, not your normal daily driver suspension. Livable, yes. More fun, absolutely. It's a pretty warm day here in Maryland, and what's great about modern Porsches is this car still retains all of its HVAC, and I'm in total comfort while I'm driving quite sportingly here. Some of the older cars have a really neat characteristic in terms of driving, air-cooled sounds and such, but not all of them have great HVAC, and you know, we've come to accustomed to having that, and it's not really a luxury anymore. We consider it essential to be comfortable and cool while driving, right? So this car definitely has that. So I was really curious, would a car like this with such an aggressive autocross suspension setup, would it still be compliant and livable on the street? It's not so bad. In fact, you know, it drives very similarly to GT cars that I've driven. And on the street, certainly is livable. Steering is very precise. The shifts are not too long. I don't think there's a short throw kit in here, but I think it's just the right amount. We're going to come through a little sweeper here. Downshift. Turns in nicely. A little bit of you know, body shakes. I can hear some things creaking and rattling. It might be the stiffer suspension mounts or transmission mounts that's transferring some of that sound from those mechanical areas into the body, and therefore you hear it. It's not hateful, but it certainly isn't silent. Now this car retains its stock exhaust. Sounds okay. If this were my car, I definitely would open it up a little bit. I mean, if you're taking the insulation out, you might as well have a glorious exhaust, you know, back there. So every time you downshift and add gas, you'd have a nice symphony behind you. Now that we've done a mile, it's time for the ratings. So, taking this car to a car show, 1 to 10, I would say this car is probably about a 6. It's fairly low-key, being silver and not much exterior add-ons. You can tell it's aggressive by the stance, so you wouldn't be at the very front of the parking area at a car show, but you'd be towards the front of the pack. In terms of daily driving this car, well, you definitely have to be an enthusiast if you want to daily drive this car. Getting in and out of it, if you're young and sprightly, sure, you could probably drive it daily. You'd also have to be willing to accept the noise and the vibration. You'd probably trade that off for the excitement of your daily commute. 1 to 10 as far as a daily driver, I would say right about a 5. And as far as long journeys in this car, you know what? I think you would be okay for at least a 4, 5, 6 hour drive. Once you're in the car, you're in the seats, it's actually quite comfortable. You have, as I said earlier, all the HVAC. You know, the car on the highway, I can only imagine that it's probably just fine in terms of smoothness. The power and everything that you have on tap, and having a manual gear shift to keep you entertained. I would actually rate the long journey drives, and I'm saying this as a solo driver on that journey, I would probably put it right there at an 8. Now, if I had a passenger to consider on that long journey, then the ranking might drop a couple of notches. But overall, what a fun drive. As I said, I'm very impressed with the fact that it has such an aggressive autocross suspension, but yet out on normal streets and driving it around, fairly compliant. I would have no qualms driving this a couple of days a week to the office and then using it as a weekend warrior to attack some cones.